This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com. Virginia hospitals and health systems provide jobs. They support our economy and promote public health. Local hospitals are always open to help people with unexpected health needs. Having a stable healthcare network is vital. Virginia hospitals are our lifeline.
I just received a letter from a student who thanked me for instilling the love of math in him. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome back to Secretary John Harvey.
Thanks, sir.
Secretary of Veterans and Defense Affairs, and we'll let our viewers know we're having a conversation right after the time that the two chambers have reported out their budgets, and we'll be in the budget throw, and the session will be winding down toward that February 25th scheduled adjournment, and really interested in your letting our viewers know just where do some things stand that you're working on, that your Secretariat's working on here this session.
Sure. I've been very encouraged by what I've seen this morning as I reviewed the results of the House and Senate versions of the budget and how they compared to what the governor had submitted. And I think we've come out in pretty good shape. We have one issue that I really want to get resolved, that I had support in the Senate Finance for establishing a very comprehensive working group that could get at some of the issues of veteran entrepreneurship and how we could best support that in the Commonwealth and do that within the community college system and all that they've already done. So it was not a new start. There's no new money required. So I'm hopeful that we can prevail and get everyone behind that one. That's generally been for the last 3 years, that's been the tradition here. And I've brought forward, the governor's brought forward initiatives that seem to be able to attract everybody to some common ground, which is an increasingly scarce commodity here in Richmond, that we're able to get behind and move forward into supporting our veterans and supporting the military in Virginia in the way we need to for the future.
When we've had conversations before, I think one of the themes that's always there is that on veterans issues, for the most part, they're not Democrats or Republicans.
Right.
There's universal support, and as you said, some differences at this point in the budget, but still support for veterans.
No, that's been sort of one of the huge lessons learned for me, you know, and coming into this as I did with no prior experience, but recognizing that within Virginia, how the people feel about it. I mean, Virginia has a tremendous reputation not only of serving in our military, both in the past and today, but also supporting those who served. And that support from the people of Virginia is reflected in both houses of the General Assembly and on both sides of the aisle within each house. And so it was really a tremendous benefit to me to be the custodian of this portfolio that starts out with pretty strong bipartisan support, and then you have the governor who's just been all in on his support for veterans and how we become the most veteran-friendly state in the Union and the most military-friendly state. So when you put all that together, I was in a very, very fortunate spot over the last 3 years.
I know there's been a lot of push throughout the time on jobs for veterans, and so I'm taking what you're saying now, that the entrepreneurship is one of the other factors that needs some additional attention?
Right. We're trying to look at shore up the foundation, if you will. There's a foundation for veterans issues composed of how do we help them gain really good employment, good jobs, jobs you can build a future with a family. How do we help them on education, particularly in our community college system, which becomes the opportunity escalator for so many of our veterans? How do we help them on health care? And the governor proposed and the General Assembly supported building 2 additional Veterans Care Centers in Virginia, in addition to the 2 we already have. And the last piece of that foundation I wanted to put in place was how do we support those veterans who seek to find their own business, who want to develop the skills and the knowledge for entrepreneurship, that they can get going and build that thing they've dreamed of all along. And that's not an easy task in today's economy. And so how can we provide them the tools they need to succeed in developing a business, which is one of the great employers in the Commonwealth, is small business. So we see that as supporting the new Virginia economy, we see it as supporting veterans, and we see it in support for additional jobs for veterans. So they all came together. So that's the last piece of this foundation I'm trying to get in place over our 4 years here in office.
So take it a little bit farther then. Let's say that prevails, that stays in the budget.
Right.
And so after the April reconvene day that's going forward, what will it kind of look like then? What do you envision are the ones that are that the community colleges will be
Well,
doing?
what we have is a great model that we did the same approach last session when we had some issues that came about with our veterans and Virginia's Veterans and Family Support Program. And we needed to restructure that. We needed to refine it, to refocus it, and be sure we were working on the right things for the right people at the right time. So the General Assembly directed the formation of a comprehensive working group from the head of our JLARC, Mr. Hal Greer, Dr. Hazel, our great Secretary of Education and Health and Human Services, and me. Put it together and then come back to the General Assembly and say, here's what we think we ought to do. Well, we're going to try to follow that same model and put that same kind of working group together, because it's important that we not just, here's a program we want to spend money on. Well, we want to put together a program that has credibility, that has buy-in from the people who have to execute it, and that we go back to the General Assembly, the custodians of the people's dollars, and say, this is why you can trust us with this. We're going to prove to you it can be cost-effective, and it can be efficient, and it'll get us the kind of results that we want to see. And so that's what I'm trying to get to with this approach for a comprehensive working group with small business involvement, community college involvement, and of course the involvement of our veterans and defense team on this.
So if money is needed, that's in the next biennial budget.
Correct.
Should there? Yes.
Correct.
All right.
We want to prove we can develop a program that makes sense and builds on what we already have in the state, not just create something new that maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but here let's prove to you that we're on the right track here and worthy of your support.
Excellent. Any other things, excuse me, on health care or other
Yes,
other matters?
There's a big one, David,
Yes.
and today we're going to celebrate the first hiring of a Navy corpsman under the program called the Medic Corpsman Program that accelerated these transitioning service members who are extraordinarily skilled, our Navy corpsmen and these Army combat medics, and move them into Virginia's workforce in the healthcare industry much more rapidly than it had. This was a program that was authorized last year, a pilot program. We got the healthcare systems, all of them in Virginia behind it, and now we have the first hiring is going to take place down by Chesapeake Regional healthcare system, a Navy corpsman who has transitioned out, brought his skills. He's going to go right to work while he gets his full accreditations and education via the community college system. It is a tremendous win-win for the veterans, a win-win for Virginians because they're going to get great health care from these extraordinary men and women and the skills and talents that they have. And it's a great win for Virginia's healthcare system because they have lots of job openings for just these types of people that they need to fill. So today it was authorized just last year, and today we're doing the first hire and many more to come. So I think it's a real success of a program that delivers for the people of Virginia.
That is indeed exciting news, and I think if we roll the tapes back to some previous shows, you talked about the
You
the
heard me
need to
talk
do
about that
Yes.
quite a bit. I had great
Yes.
hopes for it, and those hopes are being realized.
Yes, excellent. Well, we're going to have you back when the session's over to talk some more, but in our closing minute, is there something that I have failed to ask that you wanted to get in?
No. It's been a real fascinating ride for me
Yes.
for this last 3 years. I mean, come in after a long career in the Navy to come in and be part of this, and we were talking before the show about my office is in the State House, and I really enjoy
Right.
that close-in engagement and to see how the people come in, observe the sessions in progress in the House and the Senate, engage with the legislators in Virginia. It's up close and personal. It's not this monster in
Right,
Washington
right.
that's so distant from the people they serve. This is a very intimate democracy down here, and I've really, really enjoyed being a part of it and having a role to play in bringing our government to the people, because it is, you know, of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's what this is all about.
Right.
And I have had tremendous internal rewards of being part of it. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity that the governor has given me to do so.
Secretary Harvey, what a great wrap up, and we do look forward to another conversation, but thank you very much for being on This Week in
Well, it's
Richmond.
always my pleasure, David. Appreciate it.
We're delighted to have the First Lady of the Commonwealth of Virginia on This Week in Virginia, in Richmond. We're just so glad that you're here and to tell us about what's happening and some special initiatives that you have. You got your degree in political science, then your Juris Doctor, and now as First Lady working on some very important issues relating to children. So tell us about it.
Well, thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be on with you this morning and to talk about the things that I'm working on. It's just a true honor to be the First Lady of Virginia, and my husband and I have really had the opportunity of a lifetime the last 3 years, and so I'm happy to talk about what we're doing. When we came into office, one of the things that I talked about during his campaign and since being First Lady is the fact that we have a real challenge in front of us. So many challenges, but one that is the most basic to all of us, and that is that 300,000 of our Virginia children are food insecure. And so I work on how we can take advantage of the resources that are available and make sure that our schools are taking advantage of all the resources that are there to feed our children, because we do believe schools are the best place to reach children that are food insecure, and we know that school days are long, and so all children will benefit from the educational opportunities, both in terms of nutrition and learning about nutrition, but also just the fact that we have to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure children aren't hungry while they're but certainly having the opportunity to feed them at school is so important. So we focus on the breakfast programs, after school programs, and the summer meal programs that are available to our children in the Commonwealth.
No, if the viewers thought they heard 300,000, that's what they heard. That's a rather astounding number.
It is. It's a very large number of our children who really depend on the school feeding programs, whose families depend on the school feeding programs to help with their family budgets every month. And we, especially the program, our breakfast program, makes breakfast available in a meaningful way to all children, because we know on any day, for whatever reason, whether it be traffic or rushed schedules or just a bad morning at home, that children need to have that opportunity once they get to school. And the breakfast after the bell programs that we focus on, that I've worked with the General Assembly and the governor to have money included in the budget to help schools switch to that after the bell model, really gives children a great start to the school day by taking the breakfast out of a busy cafeteria and putting it either into the classroom or a grab and go opportunity between periods. And then we know children aren't hungry waiting for lunch, and making sure they have an opportunity to have that breakfast and that best start to the day.
We're going to put up on the website information where they can go and get more information about this breakfast after the bell. But that's really an important program and something that's happening to some degree around the country, but really a Virginia focus.
Yeah, so in last school year we saw an additional 5 million breakfasts served in our Virginia schools, and That's a real testament to both the understanding that's being built about, the stigma that happens when breakfast is only served in the cafeteria, only to those children whose parents rely on school meals. But when we take it out of the cafeteria before school and make it available during the school day, we know there's a great need. We see it. We see it in the participation going up, and we see also an improvement in SOL scores. We saw 54% of the schools that had taken advantage of the breakfast funding saw an improvement in one or more SOL subjects. Now, we know a lot of things go into improving SOLs. Teachers, administrators, and just great schools, and effort by kids and parents, everyone coming together. But we know that breakfast and making sure kids aren't hungry is a really important part of a school day.
Now, you mentioned something about the state budget, but there's a lot of federal money that comes in for this that's available to schools.
Right. So what we're doing is really helping schools take advantage of the federal funding that's been in place since the beginning of public education, but really in a big, meaningful way in the federal program, the federal feeding program since World War II, when military generals and admirals came to Congress and said, we need to make sure that our children are strong, are healthy, and able to fight for our national security interests, but also such an important part of our economic interests to make sure children are taking advantage and having success in our public education system. And school meals, the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, and now there are after-school programs and summer programs that states that our local district can take advantage of those, get reimbursed for feeding kids, and the state money helps schools do that, as does, we have the Virginia No Kid Hungry campaign also, which is also private grant money and technical assistance to help schools cut through the red tape, have grant money to build programs, especially those after-school and summer meal programs. We also have the Virginia Breakfast Challenge, where we have grant money going to, extra money going to schools that are building participation. It's really about elevating awareness and the importance of the fact that these programs are there and available to work for our schools and for our kids.
So the 300,000 students are probably scattered throughout the Commonwealth. They're not just all in the areas that I might think of as the areas of most.
Oh no, I mean, we see in Fairfax County, Virginia, one of the wealthiest counties in the country. Large school-age population, and so that means that when you look at the free and reduced lunch rate there, it's about 54,000 kids. So it's a significant problem across the Commonwealth, across the country. We know that over 50% of children in public schools qualify for free and reduced lunch. And that's while, my husband and his administration and all across the country, governors are working towards, building the economy, creating workforce. That's been the focus of my husband's initiative as governor since he came into office. It's what he ran on. But knowing that we have children that are from families where their wages are not quite keeping up with the cost of living. That's why my husband's focused on those new jobs, the new economy, where are the jobs, the good paying jobs. But until that happens, there's a lag, and we need to make sure that families have this safety net. And school feeding, using schools as a feeding hub, as it were, is thinking about a new way to think about the food system is really important. And it's where we also can teach the important lessons of food when all kids are eating together. And whether you're talking about science, or you're talking about the math, or you're talking about cooking, or you're talking about how do plants grow, biology, and earth science, all those things. You have an opportunity to connect the curriculum with food when food is elevated as a priority in the school. And schools, and many schools are moving to the school gardens, and conversation around food has really taken on a new meaning in the last 10 years. And so parents are looking for good quality meals and the opportunities for kids to learn those lifelong healthy eating habits.
So the decision to have the breakfast after the bell, the food, is a local decision.
Yes,
so
it is.
If we have viewers watching and they're wondering, does our school system provide that?
Yeah.
It's really something, if they're concerned about it, to take up with their local school board, their superintendent.
Yes, and talk to your principal and your PTA.
Yes.
And it's also important that families understand why. Why is this opportunity available? It's not that we're saying that parents don't have a responsibility.
Right.
Of course,
Yes.
that we all have a responsibility to children, but making sure there's a meaningful opportunity for those kids that on any given day might have missed a meal, and to think about the lessons that can be taught when children are having breakfast in the classroom. Also, teachers report that while they may have been hesitant about having breakfast in the classroom, that they find that children get to class sooner, they get settled in quicker, and they do
Yes.
have the opportunity to get to know each other as a class and talk about the start of the day and talk about manners or talk about what it is that they're eating and the importance of food. And so that's been a real win-win for so many of the teachers that I've talked to that might have been hesitant at the beginning. And then for older kids, the grab-and-go opportunity, because we know that some children get to school so very, very early. Some aren't hungry right when they leave home. And so having that opportunity a little later in the morning to have a breakfast and quick on the run, because we know
Yes,
class
right.
schedules are tight. But we do see a lot of teachers reporting an increase in curriculum time when they have moved breakfast to the classroom or to a grab-and-go. And I think that's what we know is so important,
Right.
is how do we really make that curriculum time the most beneficial and the most robust for all kids.
Now, there's a connection between what you're doing here in the Commonwealth and your work in the National Governors Association Spouses Program, which you're the chairwomanship.
Yes,
that.
that's
So-
right, yes.
So make that connection and what's happening on the
Right.
national
So
level.
my husband is the chairman of the National Governors Association this year, and something that I'm very proud of him for having that leadership role. And it's a great opportunity for us to talk about what we're doing in Virginia. We do believe we're a model for the rest of the nation in terms of rethinking school feeding and how important it is and prioritizing it. And other governors are doing that as well. We know Governor Sandoval in Nevada, our Connecticut governor, our North Dakota, they're just, Montana, I know for sure. But a lot of governors and spouses are thinking about the importance of making sure children, all children in this country, have enough to eat, and what are the best ways to reach them, and where is the best place to reach them. And we know that's where children are. That's the most scalable way to approach this problem. And so we'll be presenting with governors and spouses at the National Governors Association on the work that we've done with the Virginia No Kid Hungry campaign and the public-private partnership, because we do have some money in the state budget, but we also are bringing private resources to bear in terms of working with nonprofits, working with schools to reach kids in both the out-of-school time, so the summer meals and the after-school meals, and then also in increasing breakfast participation.
Now, you're speaking about the nonprofits that you work with, like the food banks and others. It's got to be a challenge here in especially the winter time, if there's some snow days and protracted time when children are out of school. There's probably a great deal of hunger that may not be getting the same kind of attention as it gets in the school setting.
Right, and of course, hunger during the holidays. A lot of people focus on it at Christmas time and Thanksgiving, and yet we know that hunger is a challenge throughout the year. And our food banks have been a great resource. They help with our after-school meals and some of the summer feeding that we do. Elevating the backpack program so that when schools know that there's going to be snow, that they're able to send food home. As best we can in predicting the weather. But it is a real challenge, and especially in some of our rural communities where the distances are so great, and that's where the food banks have always been a great safety net for Virginians. And we'll continue to innovate with, we work with our state library system and with the YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs and all these great community organizations we like to work and partner with those organizations who already know the community so well. And we bring resources to bear to help figure out innovative ways to reach those in need. And I say that it's the best part of the job is to get to know so many great people across the Commonwealth who are doing so many great things, and it's not always the first thing you hear on the news, and yet there's just so much great work and great partnership happening.
Dorothy McAuliffe, First Lady of the Commonwealth, we thank you for what you're doing and highlighting this issue, and more than just highlighting it, trying to get something accomplished. And we encourage our viewers to pay attention to what's happening in their locality
Right.
and make sure that kids are not being hungry. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Well, thank you, David. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community. For jobs, the economy, and public health, Virginia Hospitals, our lifeline.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.